Okay, let's jump right into this explainer and unpack the profound, frankly fascinating paradox of West Bengal in May 2026. Right now, we're looking at a state at an absolutely critical juncture in its post-independence history, suspended in a super tense interregnum just days before the May 4th election results.
We are going to look at a state caught right in the middle of intense political and social friction on one side and a remarkably robust economic renaissance on the other. It's a massive contrast, really. You have unprecedented democratic participation colliding head-on with mass voter deletions and widespread civic protests happening right alongside surging GDP growth and a seriously flourishing startup scene.
So here's how we'll break this down. First, a state at a crossroads. Second, the voter deletion controversy. Third, the fight for safety. Fourth, the surprising economic boom. And finally, infrastructure and the Pravda vision. Let's start with Section 1, a state at a crossroads, the 2026 Legislative Assembly elections.
Despite all the heightened tensions, the electorate responded with a staggering 92.47% voter turnout. I mean, that is the highest level of participation since independence. It perfectly captures a deeply engaged population that feels a desperate, absolute urgency regarding the future of their state. This massive participation really highlights the incredibly high stakes across the board here. In Phase 1, covering the historical battlegrounds of North and Central Bengal, turnout hit a wild 93.19%. Phase 2, which covers the traditional TMC strongholds in South Bengal and Greater Kolkata, followed super closely with 91.66%. Both sides literally mobilized their rural and urban bases to the absolute limit.
But those high stakes resulted in some severe localized institutional friction. The recall crisis in the Faltas constituency is a perfect microcosm of this. The Election Commission actually had to void all 285 booths there due to severe offenses. We're talking about bizarre, almost unbelievable tactics, like taping and heavily perfuming the electronic voting machine buttons to stop voters from pressing them, alongside rampant companion voting. The breakdown in decorum even reached pop culture levels. There was a viral exchange where a police observer warned against voter intimidation, and a local candidate basically shot back, "If he is Singham, I am Pushpa." It just really shows you the intense, hyper-personalized nature of this campaign.
Moving on to Section 2, the voter deletion controversy, the special intensive revision crisis.
This is perhaps the most controversial element of the 2026 cycle. The bureaucratic restructuring of the voter base, designed to remove undocumented migrants and correct errors, ended up purging a massive 9.1 million names. That's about 11% of the entire eligible electorate. The data shows that of those deleted voters, 63% were Hindu and 34% were Muslim. Now, that 34% is a disproportionate figure since Muslims constitute only 27% of the state's population, which definitely fueled opposition claims of targeted disenfranchisement. However, that 63% Hindu deletion rate also heavily hit core BJP-supporting tribal and Namasudra communities, creating this massive, chaotic political fallout for literally everyone involved.
And the technical architecture behind this, it relied heavily on AI to flag logical discrepancies, but it completely failed to account for local linguistics. It famously flagged the Nobel laureate Amartya Sen. The algorithm just couldn't parse the complexities of Bengali surnames and rural naming conventions, which led to a huge overcorrection by the automated systems.
Critics point out that this created a massive state of legal limbo, deeply impacting both the mature community and minority voters across the region. And the human cost of this bureaucratic trauma has been just immense. There are reports of over 100 stress-related deaths, as millions of citizens basically had their right to live and vote in the state placed on trial.
Which brings us to Section 3, the fight for safety, the lasting legacy of the RG car tragedy.
We absolutely have to talk about the social upheaval that has totally transcended partisan politics here, the ongoing movement against the threat culture in healthcare. The horrific rape and murder of a trainee doctor at RG Carr Medical College back in August 2024 fundamentally altered the social fabric of the state. Even though the primary trial concluded with a life sentence for the convict in January 2026, the underlying systemic issues are still unresolved. And that's what's driving junior doctors to continue their cease work actions well into May.
So despite the trial concluding, the judicial stalemate continues. The Supreme Court refused to grant blanket protections for protesting doctors, and a national task force rejected the need for a new central safety law. In response to all of this, medical professionals took matters into their own hands. They set up Abahe clinics, providing public health care entirely independent of the state administration. It's a really powerful symbol of protest and solidarity.
Okay, Section 4.
the surprising economic boom defying political instability.
This is the crucial twist. While the political sphere is defined by all this friction, West Bengal's economic indicators reveal a surprising renaissance. You would totally expect institutional instability to stall growth, right? But the state is showing remarkable resilience, outpacing the national average to reach an estimated nominal GSDP of 19.91 lakh crore rupees. Driven by improved tax revenue collection and a consistent rise in capital expenditure on physical infrastructure, West Bengal's real economy is growing at a highly competitive 7.62%.
Grounding this macroeconomic data, Kolkata has quietly emerged as a massive Eastern Indian hub, fostering nationally recognized startups in deep tech, clean tech, and food tech. These aren't just little local success stories either. Companies like Wow Momo and StockEdge are leveraging the state's huge pool of STEM graduates to build highly competitive national brands, proving the region's entrepreneurial ecosystem is genuinely taking off.
Finally, Section 5. Infrastructure and the Purvodaya vision, integrating Bengal into global supply chains.
This economic growth naturally brings us to the large-scale connectivity projects under the central government's Purvodaya vision. The union budget introduced some seriously ambitious infrastructural steps aimed at fundamentally transforming goods movement and employment across eastern India. We're talking about a freight corridor linking the textiles of Hooghly to Gujarat, high-speed rail opening up North Bengal, and a massive manufacturing node in Durgapur. These are huge, long-term physical capital investments.
But of course, these announcements have sparked political conflict over funding disparities. State politicians are quick to point out that Bengal's allocations pale in comparison to neighboring Bihar's massive 58,000 crore package, while funding for critical local projects like the Kolkata Metro remains kind of stagnant. And all of this is unfolding while the state braces for immediate severe weather threats. The meteorological department has actually issued heavy rain and thunderstorm alerts that threaten to totally disrupt the critical May 4th vote counting day logistics.
So as the state navigates this incredibly critical interregnum, we leave you with this final thought on the future of West Bengal's democracy and development. Can the undeniable energy of its startups and infrastructure projects outpace the bureaucratic trauma and political volatility we've unpacked today? It is a deeply complex, evolving story, and the upcoming election results are really just the next chapter. Thanks so much for joining me for this explainer, and keep questioning what you see.